Picture this. A 15-year-old opens his phone. First video, Gary Vee, warm and enthusiastic, telling him that if he's not working his face off in his 20s, he's basically wasting the only real advantage he will ever have.
You need to deploy serious self-awareness and figure out who you are. I implore you to start matching your work ethic and your actions to your mouth. If you're gonna be a billionaire, you need to realize that most people that create $1 billion worth of wealth don't do anything besides work every single day of their 20s and 30s. All of them.
Second video, Patrick Bet David suited and serious, explaining that the reason he hasn't made it yet is that he doesn't think like a billionaire, and that the solution starts with getting access to the right people.
Why did you think the dough was there? I mean, obviously, it's a good business because people like to be assured.
I think you
could have called it Assyrian assurance.
Would you have trusted? Could I have sold you a policy?
Yeah, but that other lady probably no.
Okay.
Third video, Andrew Tate dripping in jewelry, surrounded by cars, telling him that the world is rigged against him, that showing emotion is weakness, and that the men who get it figured out do whatever they want.
And while we're on the subject, I want to state here and now, that's what makes me such a fantastic individual, because I don't have to give up my entire life to be successful in one particular field. Most dudes to look like me have to give up their entire life to look like me. I can do it as a hobby on the side, which means it gives me plenty of time to do all these other things. That's why I'm going to be a billionaire. So I got all these cars. That's why I got this compound. So I got an army, 20 armed guys outside my house.
3 videos, 60 seconds, 1 machine. Because this isn't 3 separate guys with 3 separate messages. It's 3 doors into the same building. A machine that takes male insecurity, packages it as self-improvement, and sells it back at whatever price the customer can currently afford. Today we're going to walk through all 3 doors, look at exactly how the business works, and ask the question none of these guys want you sitting with. If their system is so good at making men powerful and free, why does it need you to keep paying for it? Before we get to the 3 men, let's talk about what they're all selling. Hustle culture is the belief that your worth lives in your output, not your relationships, not your happiness, your productivity, your grind. Rest is for people who don't want it badly enough. Hobbies are either monetized or they're distractions. The structure of your life should point toward one destination: money and status. Stack that with toxic masculinity, the idea that vulnerability is weakness, that dominance is the measure of a man, that if you feel lost or lonely, the answer is never to talk about it, it's to acquire more, and you have something built for a very specific customer. Young men who feel anxious, overlooked, and confused about what they're supposed to be. And that is a genuinely enormous demographic right now. The anxiety is real. The confusion is real. Economic instability is real. The content pipeline that has learned to speak to that anxiety and turn it into a revenue stream runs directly through the phones in their pockets. And these 3 men are, in their different ways, the people who built it. Let's start at the most explicit end of the spectrum. Andrew Tate built his brand on a simple, very loud message. Real men don't have feelings. They have power. They have money. They have status. They don't apologize. They don't show weakness. Ever. He calls himself the top G. He has described himself publicly as a misogynist.
I say what I think, and I'm a realist. And if some of my views, based very firmly in absolute professionalism, by extension, absolute reality, come across in a misogynistic tone, then that is your problem.
His content tells young men that the world is the Matrix, a system designed to keep them broke, weak, and under control.
The Matrix is strong. The system which is designed to keep you as a slave is strong. How could it exist any other way? Because there's very few of them and there's a lot of you. The system is extremely strong and it's designed to keep most of the people at the bottom slaving away, praying to have money they're never going to have so that those at the top can stay filthy, filthy rich.
And that the only escape runs through him.
You need a plan to benefit from this inflation so you can ride the tidal wave as opposed to being run over by it. Hustlers University, that's exactly what we're doing. We are preparing for inflation. We are inflation hedging. It doesn't matter if you have $1 or $30 million like me.
The formula works because it isn't entirely wrong. Mixed into the ideology is genuine advice. Work out, be disciplined, make money, have goals. But you cannot get the advice without the worldview. They come as a package. The healthy stuff is the hook, the ideology is the product, and the product got enormous. Before he was banned from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook in August 2022 for violating their content policies around hate and harmful behavior, his content had racked up over 12.7 billion views on TikTok under the Andrew Tate hashtag. In 2022, he was the 8th most Googled person on Earth. That reach didn't happen by accident. His platform, originally Hustlers University, now rebranded as The Real World, charges around $50 a month for courses in e-commerce, crypto, and copywriting, depending on which version of the program you're looking at. And members were incentivized to spread his content. Early versions of the platform paid members a commission for every new subscriber they recruited. An Observer investigation stated members were explicitly encouraged to flood social media with his most inflammatory clips. The more people were outraged, the more the algorithm served him to everyone. He built an army of true believers who were also unpaid marketing assets and used the platform's own viral mechanics as his distribution system. The ideology those clips carried has had documented effects in real schools. A survey of 5,800 UK teachers found nearly 3 in 5 reporting that social media was damaging student behavior, with Tate named repeatedly. This January 2025 research found boys arriving in classrooms with openly dismissive attitudes toward women in authority, and a framework borrowed directly from his content that frames their own anxiety as proof the system is against them. One teacher described a 10-year-old refusing to take direction from her, citing Tate by name. That's not a side effect. That's the business model working as designed. Now let's move up the price ladder. Patrick Bet-David is, on the surface, a very different figure. He founded Valuetainment, a media and consulting company built around entrepreneurship content.
If you've already made a decision to become an entrepreneur, but you don't know what to do next, today in this video, I will give you a 5-step process for you to become an entrepreneur.
He hosts the PBD podcast, wears suits, sits across from heads of state, and talks about building companies and your next 5 moves. If Tate is handing out pamphlets at a street corner, Bet-David has a corner office and a speaker's bureau. The message, though, rhymes. You are not where you want to be. The reason is that you don't think at the right level, don't have the right access, and haven't yet invested in getting close to someone who does. The solution is available for a price through him. Now, the price. Bet-David lists himself on Minict, a platform he co-founded for paid consultations. His publicly listed rates, which he posted himself on social media in September 2025, with the caption, "Access is expensive," are as follows. $110 for a text answer, $300 for a video response, and $800 per minute for a FaceTime call, which works out to $48,000 for an hour. Tim Heidecker and the Office Hours crew took considerable delight in pulling up this information and simply sitting with it. In their deep dive into what they generously called the awful world of Patrick Bet-David, they work through the math of a man whose entire brand tells struggling men to outwork everyone, while also charging $48,000 for 60 minutes of his thoughts on a phone screen.
The thing for business is you gotta always be growing, and what I do is I recommend starting some kind of scam where you charge people $48,000 for a half hour of your time.
Their broader point was that Bet-David has built a funnel where the free content exists to convince you that the paid content is the thing that will actually change your life. The YouTube clips and podcast episodes are the top of the funnel. The Vault Conference, his annual multi-day entrepreneurship event in Florida, and the consulting tiers are where it points. There's nothing inherently wrong with charging consulting fees, but the tension is worth naming. a man whose brand is built on telling anxious, stuck men that the path to freedom is hard work. And Discipline is also selling the idea that what stands between them and their next level is proximity to him at $48,000 an hour. The grind never stops, unless you've got 48 grand. Now walk back to the gentlest entry point. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary Vee, is in many ways the opposite of Tate in presentation. Where Tate is cold and domineering, Gary Vee is warm, enthusiastic, and openly kind. He talks about empathy and self-awareness.
Empathy and self-awareness are the two core tenets to why I think I know how to build culture and I'm great at it. And it's because I'm self-aware enough to know what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. And empathy allows me to really put myself in the position of the other person, from the person that started yesterday.
He'll tell you he loves you. He is the most likable person in this video by a wide margin. He also spent years building a content empire on the idea that if you are not grinding every available hour, you are betraying your own potential. Work your face off. That's a direct quote that became a catchphrase used approvingly by fans and cited as evidence by critics. A lot of Gary Vee's early content basically told young people to sacrifice their 20s, grind almost around the clock, and outwork everyone if they wanted to win.
I worked my face off and I learned my craft.
Like how many hours? Like
All of them.
Like 24, no sleep.
Like, I slept, but I worked I'll give you a good example. There's not a lot of 20-year-olds who can say they worked every single Saturday of their entire 20s, period. I did. I worked 50 to 52 Saturdays a year from 22 to 29.
Critics started calling this style of content an extreme hustle fantasy, a kind of productivity fetish where burning out is framed as proof that you cared enough. His own website has addressed this. A post called Gary Vaynerchuk's Actual Thoughts on Hustle argues that his real message is about aligning work with what makes you happy, not grinding yourself into nothing. And to be fair, later Gary Vee is genuinely warmer than early Gary Vee. Critics point out how circular this message can get. If the rule is, when you really love it, it won't feel like work, then feeling exhausted starts to look like proof you picked the wrong thing. And the fix you're offered for that exhaustion is more content telling you how to find the thing you really love. The machine creates the anxiety, then sells you the cure. The monetization reflects this: books, speaking, seminars, brand deals, VaynerMedia. And then VeeFriends, his NFT project launched in 2021, where hand-drawn characters are sold as community access passes on the premise of becoming the next Pokemon. As the NFT market crashed, VeeFriends pivoted toward a kids' animated show and broader entertainment IP, but the early buyers who paid significant money on the promise of returns had a complicated experience. He's the nicest guy in the machine, and the door through which the most people walk first. 3 different men, 3 different aesthetics, 1 structure. The target audience is identical. Men who feel left behind and confused about what they're supposed to be. And all 3 run on the same fuel. Not anxiety solved, anxiety maintained. Because the machine only works if you never quite arrive. The moment a man feels genuinely secure and capable, he stops consuming. So the content has to keep the wound open while appearing to dress it. The freedom is always 1 purchase away. Gary Vee gives you the mildest dose. If you're not productive enough, it's a mindset problem, and the solution is more content. Patrick Bet-David turns that into a high-ticket funnel. Proximity to the right thinking costs proximity to the right people, at $48,000 an hour. Andrew Tate gives you an enemy, the matrix, the culture, weakness itself, so you always have something external to blame for the emptiness, rather than looking at the subscription in your pocket. Together they form a pipeline, the mild gateway, the aspirational middle tier, the radical end. And a young man who starts at 1 often finds himself drawn further in. 3 flavors, same cage, sold is the key. A man who genuinely had what they're selling wouldn't need to sell you anything. Real confidence doesn't have a monthly fee. The hustle dream doesn't end when you buy in. It just gets more expensive. Same machine that sells you the dream runs on your attention. If this scratched an itch you didn't know you had, tap like so I know to keep going down these rabbit holes. Subscribe if you want more long, uncomfortable looks at the people running the modern guru economy. And drop a comment with the next character from this universe you think deserves a full episode. See you on the next one.